Every morning began the same way, with another promise that today would be different. But before he even left his bed, the world was already asking for his attention. One notification became another, and a few minutes quietly disappeared. He knew there were things he wanted to change, but everything felt too big. His room reflected his thoughts, unfinished plans, scattered ideas, waiting for someday. He wanted more energy, more focus, more confidence, a completely different life. But when he imagined changing everything at once, he felt exhausted before beginning. So he waited for motivation, the perfect feeling that would finally make action easy. Some days, motivation appeared, but it disappeared almost as quickly as it came. He would make a huge plan, push himself too hard, and expect instant results. Then one difficult day would arrive, and the entire plan would fall apart. Each time he stopped, he wondered if meaningful change was simply too difficult. Then, one quiet afternoon, he discovered an idea that challenged everything he believed. What if changing your life did not require changing your entire life today? What if you improved only one small thing by just 1%? 1% sounded almost meaningless, too small to create any real difference. But a tiny improvement, repeated every day, does not remain tiny forever. Each small action becomes the foundation for the action that follows. And slowly, almost invisibly, those ordinary choices begin to multiply. A single drop seems powerless until thousands of drops become an ocean. One seed appears insignificant until time transforms it into something strong. One page does not feel like knowledge until the pages become entire books. One short walk may not change your body, but it can change your direction. He realized he did not need a perfect plan. So he asked himself a simpler question. What is one thing I can improve today? Not 10 new habits, not a complete transformation, just one small choice. He filled a glass of water and placed it beside his bed. The next morning, the better choice was already waiting within reach. He drank the water before touching his phone. It took only a few seconds. Nothing dramatic happened. The world did not change, but one decision had changed. And because the action was easy, he returned to it the following morning. Then he added 1 minute of movement, not a full workout, only 1 minute. The goal was not to become stronger overnight. The goal was simply to begin. Some mornings, 1 minute became 2. On other mornings, 1 minute was enough. He stopped measuring success by intensity and started measuring it by consistency. For the first time, improvement felt small enough to continue. Next, he opened a book and promised himself he would read only 1 page. 1 page felt easy. There was no pressure to finish an entire chapter. But after the first page, curiosity sometimes carried him to the next. Day after day, those pages quietly began to accumulate. He placed a small blue check mark on the calendar after every completed action. 1 check mark became 2, then 3, then an entire visible pattern. The marks were simple, but they gave him evidence that he was moving. Progress was no longer only something he hoped for. He could see it. And every completed day made returning tomorrow feel a little easier. The actions were still small, but the resistance around them was becoming smaller too. What once required a difficult decision slowly became part of his routine. He was not relying on motivation anymore. He was building momentum. He began to notice something important. His environment influenced every choice. When distractions were close, distraction became easy. So instead of fighting temptation all day, he moved the phone farther away. He placed the book where he could see it, and the exercise mat where he could use it. He prepared the water before sleeping and cleared a small space on his desk. Good choices no longer required a daily battle. They became the easiest choices available. He learned that discipline was useful, but good preparation was more reliable. A visible book reminded him to read without demanding attention.
A prepared workspace made beginning easier than avoiding the work. And a distant phone became quieter, not because it changed, but because his environment did. Little by little, his room began supporting the person he wanted to become. Changing the space around him made changing his behavior feel natural.
Several weeks passed, but the results were smaller than he expected. He looked in the mirror and wondered why he did not appear completely different. He looked at his work and saw how much remained unfinished. For a moment, the old doubt returned. Is any of this actually working? But growth is often invisible before it becomes obvious. A seed spends time beneath the ground before anyone can see the plant. Water slowly shapes stone, not through one powerful moment, but through repetition. And every small action was creating change beneath the surface. His focus was improving. Beginning was easier. His room was calmer. The results had not disappeared. They were developing quietly. So he stopped demanding immediate proof and returned to the next small action. Because progress does not need to be visible today to become powerful tomorrow.
Then came a difficult day. The kind of day when even simple actions felt heavy. He was tired, distracted, and tempted to abandon the routine completely. He missed one habit, and the empty space on the calendar disappointed him. The old voice returned. You failed. You might as well stop. But one missed day was not the end of his progress. A single wrong turn does not erase the entire distance already traveled. He did not need to punish himself. He only needed to return. So the next morning, he reached for the water again. He moved for 1 minute, even though he did not feel motivated. He opened the book and read one page. Nothing impressive, but enough. Then he added another blue check mark beside the empty square. He learned a powerful rule. Never let one missed day become two.
3 months later, the calendar told a story that no single day could tell. The change was quiet. There was no dramatic moment, only a calmer daily life. He remembered the clutter, the endless scrolling, and the plans he never began. He was still the same person, but he was practicing different choices. He understood that improvement was not about moving quickly, it was about direction. And whenever he drifted, he simply corrected the next step. Not every day felt good. Some mornings remained slow, difficult, and uncomfortable. On those days, he made the habit smaller instead of abandoning it. One stretch was enough. One page was enough. One small action was enough. Because keeping a small promise protected something important: trust in himself. Consistency was not rigid. It could bend, adjust, and fit the reality of life. And because the habit could bend without breaking, it survived every season.
6 months later, hundreds of tiny choices had become part of who he was. Morning no longer began with distraction. It began with direction. Movement no longer felt like punishment. It became a simple act of care. A few pages each day had quietly become shelves of completed books. A few minutes of practice had developed into real skill. And his confidence came from evidence, not empty words or temporary motivation. When a larger challenge appeared, it no longer looked impossible. He knew how to divide something overwhelming into small actions. And every new journey began the same way, with one manageable first step. Each completed step revealed possibilities he could not see from the beginning. He finally understood. The goal had never been perfection. The goal was to become a little better and continue moving forward. 1 year later, he looked across hundreds of ordinary days. Then he found the small habit card where the entire journey had begun. The actions written there were tiny, but their results surrounded him. More energy, more focus, more knowledge, more creativity, and more trust in himself. The world had not suddenly become easier, but more possibilities were now visible. He was still a beginner in many ways, and he was no longer afraid to begin. The rule was simple. Choose one small improvement, make it easy, and repeat it. Now the question belongs to you. What is your 1%? Choose something smaller than you think, something easy enough to begin today.
Then return tomorrow. Do it again. Allow small actions to become a pattern. You do not need to transform your entire life today. Take one small step, because one small improvement, repeated every day, can change your direction, your identity, and eventually your entire life. This is the 1% rule.